March 31st, 1922. Hinterkaifeck Farm, Bavaria. 6 bodies lie in silence. The Gruber family bludgeoned to death with a mattock. But the horror doesn't end there. The killer stayed, ate their food, fed their livestock, slept beneath their roof. This is the story of Hinterkaifeck. A murder so haunting, so bizarre, that a century later, it still chills investigators to the bone. Welcome to Obscura Vault. The farm in the Fours, Hinterkaifeck wasn't a place people stumbled upon. The farm sat deep in the woods, isolated, half a mile from the nearest path. Andreas Gruber, 63, lived there with his wife Cecilia, their widowed daughter Victoria, and Victoria's 2 children, Cecilia, age 7, and Joseph, barely 2. Days before the murders, strange things began. Andreas told neighbors he saw footprints in the snow leading from the forest straight to the farm, but none returning. He heard footsteps in the attic at night. Keys went missing. Doors unlocked themselves. The maid quit weeks earlier, insisting the house was haunted. Andreas shrugged it off. But the truth, the horror was already inside. Discovery of the dead. On March 31st, neighbors grew uneasy. The Grubers hadn't been seen for days. Smoke had risen from the chimney, but no one answered calls. Finally, a search party entered the barn. They found Andreas, Cecilia, Victoria, and little Cecilia piled beneath hay, their skulls caved in by repeated blows. Inside the house, the maid Maria, just hired the day before, was murdered in her bed. 2-year-old Joseph lay lifeless in his cot. The scene was gruesome, but what horrified police most was what came after. Someone had lived in the house for days after the murders, feeding animals, eating meals, even keeping fires burning. The killer didn't just murder. He moved in. Timeline of terror. Investigators pieced together a timeline. March 26. Andreas complains to neighbors about strange footprints. March 27th. The maid Maria arrives. That night, the murders begin. The killer lured family members one by one into the barn, where they were struck down. Then he entered the house, killing Maria and baby Joseph. From March 28th to March 31st, smoke rose from the chimney, animals were fed, bread was baked. The neighbors assumed life was normal. But inside, the dead were silent, and the killer stayed among them. Suspects ranked. A crime this brutal demands suspects. But as investigators soon learned, the deeper they looked, the stranger the theories became. Let's rank the prime suspects from least convincing to the ones who still make historians shiver. Number 7, the random drifter theory. Post-war Bavaria was crawling with displaced veterans, deserters, and the desperate. Some believe a drifter stumbled on Hinterkaifeck, killed in a frenzy, then vanished into the night. But here's the problem. The killer didn't just strike and flee. He lingered, fed the cows, ate the family bread, slept under their roof. That's not the work of a passing stranger. That's someone who felt at home. Number 6, the former maid Crescens Rieger. Just weeks before the murders, the Gruber's maid quit. Her reason? She swore the house was haunted. Footsteps in the attic, strange whispers at night. Some theorists ask, did she know more than she admitted? Did she or someone she confided in return to finish what the ghosts started? No clear evidence ties her back to Hinterkaifeck, but her warning echoes like prophecy. Number 5. The serial killer passing through. Some criminologists argue the killings were too precise for a novice. One by one, the family was lured to the barn and dispatched with clean head blows. The stacking of bodies, the eerie calm afterward. It feels practiced. But if a wandering killer was at work, why no similar cases nearby? This wasn't Jack the Ripper's London, it was a remote Bavarian farm. For now, this theory sits in the shadows. Number 4. Victoria's secret lover. Victoria, the daughter, had secrets. Some whispered she had a clandestine lover, others believed her own father, Andreas, abused her for years. If Joseph the toddler was illegitimate, rage or jealousy could have ignited bloodshed. Motive? Passion? Shame? Revenge? Yet no lover ever stepped forward, no evidence surfaced. Just rumors. And in Hinterkaifeck, rumors could kill. Number 3. The village conspiracy. Another chilling idea. Maybe it wasn't one person. The barn murders happened sequentially, almost like a trap. Could more than one killer have coordinated? Andreas Gruber was deeply unpopular, known as cruel, violent, incestuous. Did the village itself turn a blind eye, or worse, participate? Imagine an entire community carrying a shared secret. That silence, that complicity, might explain why the crime was never solved. Number 2. The revenge motive Lorenz Schlittenbauer. The widowed neighbor, once close to Victoria, possibly Joseph's father. After the murders, his behavior was bizarre. He discovered the bodies, but seemed unnervingly calm. He opened locked doors without keys. He told others, "The killer won't harm me." Motive? Paternity disputes, rejection, financial tension. He was interrogated multiple times, even decades later, but never convicted. Still, if you ask most modern investigators, Schlittenbauer remains suspect number 1. Number 1. Andreas Gruber's own darkness. And finally, Andreas Gruber himself. The patriarch, a man with a record of incest, violence, and paranoia. Some argue he created the hatred that sealed the family's fate. Did enemies he'd made finally strike back? Did Victoria's supposed lover turn on him? Or was the entire massacre the inevitable end of a family trapped under his cruelty? In this ranking, Andreas isn't the killer, but the dark gravity that pulled the killer in. Modern investigations. Over the years, investigators reopened the case. Forensic experts reviewed the files, even DNA was tested. But the evidence had decayed, lost to time. The official result: unsolvable. In 2017, German police quietly admitted they believe they know the killer based on records, family testimonies, and suspicion. But out of respect for surviving relatives, the name was never released. Closing thoughts. The murders of Hinterkaifeck remain Germany's most chilling unsolved crime. A killer who struck with brutal precision, then lingered in the silence of his victim's home. 6 lives ended. 1 farm soaked in blood. And one question that still whispers across Bavaria: who lived with the dead at Hinterkaifeck? If you found this case as chilling as we did, subscribe to Obscura Vault for more stories where history hides its darkest secrets. Until next time, check your attic. You never know who might already be inside.